Become a good student of your own life. It's the information you are most familiar with and feel the strongest about. So make your own life one of your most important studies. And in studying your own life, be sure to study the negative as well as the positive, your failures as well as your successes. Our so-called failures serve us well when they teach us valuable information. They're frequently better teachers than our successes. One of the ways we learn how to do something right is simply by doing it wrong. Doing it wrong is a great school for learning. Now I would suggest that you not take too long. If you've done it wrong for 10 years, I wouldn't suggest another 10. But what a close at hand and emotionally impactful way to learn from your own experiences. When I met Mr. Schoaf, I had been working 6 years. I started when I was 19, and when I met him, I was 25. He said to me, "Mr. Rohn, you have been working now for 6 years. How are you doing?" I said, "Not very well." He said, "Then I suggest you not do that anymore. 6 years is long enough to operate the wrong plan." Next he asked, "How much money have you saved in the last 6 years?" I said, "Not any." He said, "Who sold you on that plan 6 years ago?" What a fantastic question. Where did I get my present plan that wasn't working well? Hey, everyone has bought someone's plan. The question is, whose? Whose plan have you bought? Now, those initial confrontations as you come to grips with your own past experiences may be a little painful at first, especially if you have made as many errors as I did. But think of the progress you can make when you have finally confronted those errors by becoming a better student of your own life. Now, the next way to learn is from other people's experiences. And remember, you can learn from other people whether they have done it right or wrong. You can learn from negative as well as positive. The Bible is such a great book because it is a collection of human stories on both sides of the ledger. One list of human stories is called examples. Do what these people did. And the other list of human stories is called warning. Don't do what these clods did. What a wealth of information. What to do and what not to do. I think it also means, however, that if your story ever gets in somebody's book, make sure they use it as an example, not a warning.
He finds his power. It's a wonderful thing to find your power. Give me a double portion of your spirit. And this is something that you should take note of about power. Don't give people power too quickly. The moment they ask for it doesn't mean you ought to give it to them. Sometimes pastors are too nice. People come to you and ask you for stuff, whatever they ask you for, go ahead, bless God, the Lord leading you to do that, go ahead and do it. They're going to wreck your thing, wreck the entire church. You don't give power quickly to people. You don't give the microphone quickly to people. I had a little church, and back then, Praise the Lord was on TV, and it was a big thing, and Jim and Tammy were up there, and they had all them good singers and bright people talking on TV and stuff like that, and I just started my church, and all my members was like this, and you know, and I said, Lord, how come they got all of those good people up there and those smart, bright people and stuff up there doing what they're doing, and then you just send me just, you know, what you sent me. I had some people had their shoes on backwards and stuff, you know, and and suddenly the Lord spoke back to me and said, they got some people like that too, but they're not up front. Have you given power to the wrong person?
I believe complexity is the enemy of execution. That's what it is. You got to make it so simple, people do it. Complexity is the enemy of execution. So I'll get it simple. You get it to me, I'll make it simple. He goes, well, it uses leverage. I said, give me one that doesn't leverage that anybody could do. They could do it with ETFs. He goes, well, I don't know. I don't know what that's going to look like. It won't be perfect. I said, your worst plan is going to be better than anybody else's best plan. And then he this moment of engagement, this magic moment, he opens up and he goes, okay, it's not right like crazy. I got the video camera going. I'm feeling this vibration in my body. I left so excited, knowing it was something special, but not knowing what it was. But that formula, I took it to Hightower, $30 billion asset company, said, test this 30 years, 40 years, 75 years. How's this done? Over all that time period, in the last 30 years, it lost money 4 times. Made money every other time. And the 4 times, one of the losses was 0.003. So it really practically lost money 3 times. You know what the average loss was? 1.9%. But the average gain, just under 10 all in. The largest loss in 75 years, it's been right 85% of the time, the largest loss was 3.95, as that was 2008. Less than 4% when the rest of the world, from top to bottom, lost 51%. It's in my book, by the way. And so a bunch of my partners are like, hey, this is a business. Don't put that shit in the book. And I said, you know what, it is a great business. We can help people do it if they want to do it, but it wasn't offered in that spirit. So it's there. I tell you this because I want you to understand with engagement, you can get anything. But engagement, I want you to define it, I want you to experience it. So what's the first thing that allows you to engage somebody? What's the number one thing? Right now, if I said to you, what is it? How many think Mark is a fairly engaging guy without blowing smoke? How many have to say this guy's pretty damn engaging? Say, What makes him engaging? What makes somebody you find engaging? What makes them engaging to you? What is it about them? Think about it. Say it out loud. What makes somebody engaging? They're positive? What's that? Eye contact makes somebody engaging. She's talking about another level of engagement. I can feel it right now. What else creates someone engaging? Come on. Smile. What else makes them engaging? Energy, passion, talking the truth instead of what you want to hear. Who loves someone who will tell you the damn truth in the world? The world, not even reality television is freaking real anymore, right? Raw and real may not sound good, but it sure feels good because you know it's there. Sincerity. When you feel like somebody, how about caring? When you feel like somebody truly cares about you, does that make you engage more, right? What makes something disengaging to you? What makes you disengage with someone? Lying, when you can't trust them. Arrogance, when they try to control you. What disengages you? When they come up to hit on you and they're not even committed. You're like the 12th person and you can feel it. When they're insincere, disengages you. What's that? When the communication or the relationship is one-sided, totally disengages you, doesn't it? Inauthenticity. Whereas authentic does engage you, doesn't it? Right? What's that? Yes, when they're on their phone talking to you while they're also doing something else. How many love this experience? And yet we've made it culturally okay. Depending upon what generation you're in. Depends on how your mindset is and where you live in the world, I guess, to some extent. But all the things you said are true. When you feel that someone cares about you, is interested in you, is sincere with you, shares the same interest, is trying to accomplish something, if there's that caring, sincerity, mission, passion, is passion something engages you? Yes or no? And then disengagement's the opposite. But all of them start with one thing that I want to do right now so we can shift this gear, because you've been sitting way too long and so quietly. You've been so nice. But this passive learning has got to end now. I just did it so it wouldn't feel jolting when we began. Now we can step into the real game. And here's how I want to do that. First of all, energy. Energy is the base. How many agree energy is engaging? Say I. If you want to change something in your life and you are what I call energy poor, low energy, are you going to follow through? Yes or no? You love your husband or wife, but you're exhausted. Love you, okay. There is no passion. There is no intimacy without energy. Am I right? You're not going to go to build a business without energy. You see this crazy man? He's filled with energy day and night and day. It's Richard Branson. How much energy does that man have? He's insane in his energy. Anybody I've ever met who really has this compelling ability to engage with people, it's energy. But are they born with it? Some maybe, most not. Because I've interviewed them, I've seen them, and I also see some of them like Richard. Richard is a ball of fire of energy, and then he's not. He's actually a very internal guy in many ways. He's external when he wants to go do something. He's crazy and willing to risk his life. Not in business. In business, he goes, okay, I'm going to take Virgin and make Virgin Airways, so how can I lose? Oh, I'm going to make a deal with Boeing that if they fail, I get to give them the jets back. That's how he thinks. In his life, let me go in the middle of a balloon in the middle of the sky and hope shit happens.
See, the cool thing about me is I ain't got nothing to sell you. I ain't got nothing for you. I'm just going to tell you how you can get to the next level. Now, I've been debating on how I was going to do this, but I thought the best way to go about this is just tell you my story. And in my story, maybe you can see some of yourself. Listen, man, anybody can be successful, but you got to understand something. It's hard. It's hard, man. You can take all the courses you want. It's hard. You can go down there to the church and hold your hands in a prayer circle. When you get through praying, it's going to be hard. You go to school, you can get all the degrees you want. When you get them degrees and you hang them on the wall, if you want to be successful, it's going to be hard. It's hard being successful. That's the first thing you need to understand. Come to these seminars and have these people come out here talk to you about success and everything. Come out here and they do a nice job of it, but then you go back and think you got it. It's hard. I don't even know the speaker's name, but all these people that was up here, it was hard. That lady had the red dress on. To get to where she at, it's hard. It's hard. Understand that. It's hard, man. See, and I talk real. I ain't got no paper. I ain't got no presentation. You know, I got some pictures if you want to see them, but I ain't really got them tied to nothing.
Everybody doesn't want what you want. The question is, are you prepared to get what it is that you want? Are you prepared to make the sacrifices? Do you understand what that really means?
That's why there's an Old Testament phrase that gives the best advice for human activity when it says, 6 days labor, 1 day rest.
And the way I get them to break their slump, not correcting their swing or getting them positive, it's getting them to acknowledge the small promises, showing up to batting practice early, hitting that extra bucket of balls, beginning to reward themselves for the extra promises they keep to themselves, puts them back in a state of self-confidence. All of a sudden, they're hitting the ball great.
Each of us needs to be the source of our own inspiration. Life's too short, and there's too much we want to accomplish to constantly be running back to books, seminars, CD or downloads to reinforce to ourselves that we can accomplish what we set our minds and hearts to. If you're a lawyer reading this book, you've already accomplished a lot. College, law school, bar exam, job, you've already done a lot. Reflect on these past successes as you work toward new ones.
Or are you going to just be complacent? And this is the time for you to recognize the truth. This is the time for you to wake up and realize that there's something that you need to be doing. But you don't need to be doing excuses. You don't need to be so complacent and lazy about what it is that you are constantly going through in your life and giving your life less than giving your life more. Why do you socialize yourself with excuses? Why do you socialize yourself with misery? Why do you socialize yourself with being complacent? What are you afraid of? Oh, I get it. You're afraid to fail. You're afraid to go back. No one said you had to go back. All you got to do is keep pushing forward. You may fall a few times. You may slip a few times.
Now, I'm sure we've taken that to mean don't work all 7 days. Take one off. Here's what it also means. Only take one off, or you're liable to lose the war. Enterprise is better than ease. If you rest too long, the jungle overtakes the village. Now here's the good news about the war between good and evil. Evil is no match for good, but good must be active. Weeds are no match for human activity, but if you stand still, how far in will they come? All the way. They'll grow right up around your shoes.
But that doesn't mean you quit. That doesn't mean you give up. That means you must find a way and you must make a way, and you got to continue to dig deeper than you've ever digged in your life. Enough is enough. Enough with the excuses. Enough with being complacent. Enough with giving up. This is the time to recognize your purpose. This is the time for you to recognize your truth and make the most of your life. And if you're not willing to do that, then nothing's going to happen for you. Nothing is going to give you that true opportunity to be the best of yourself. This is not a game, ladies and gentlemen. This is a reality check. Ask yourself, how far have you gone? How much have you given of yourself? Why do you wake up every morning with the same excuse? Why do you wake up every morning saying the same thing over and over again? Why do you feel you need that cup of coffee to start your day? Why do you feel you need to depend on your alarm clock to get up?
But if you get busy, how far back can you take them? As far as you wish. They're no match, but you must be active. That's why the 6 and 1. Make sure you're not losing the war by taking off too much. Guess what the average years are after retirement? 6. 6. Which means don't retire. Your chances are too slim. Okay. The war between good and evil, the weeds. You got to make sure you recognize the negative, handle it, deal with it, and then go on. Let's make a list of the diseases of attitude that can wreck all your chances to do well. One of the words that destroys everything is called neglect.
If you've stumbled along the way, fallen on your face, you've managed to get up and move forward. Win, lose, or draw, you're still at it. You're still getting up every one morning and facing the day. Life hasn't gotten this. Focus on what you've done. You've done it before you can do it. Again, even if you're facing different challenges, bigger challenges, you have the talent and passions and dreams. Find where they intersect and create a plan to leverage them.
And I believe the solution to self-doubt is to build something bigger than that doubt, which is to build our self-confidence. And one thing to know about the fact that you doubt yourself is, one, I struggle with it as well. One of the reasons I've had to go learn to build all these tools for myself is because in my life, my baseball career, my academic career, my business career, my speaking career, I've been riddled with self-doubt. That creeps up all the time in our lives. Am I enough? Am I good enough? Do I deserve this? Is this something that's part of my destiny? Should I be doing this? And if you're a religious person, I believe the adversary, if you believe in the adversary, I believe the adversary's greatest tool that he could use against you to get you to lose in your life is to get you discouraged and doubting.
I went into the workforce. My dad thought for sure that having me do essentially menial labor jobs would teach me that I didn't want to do that, but it also made me sort of numb to that kind of work. And so I worked in a paint factory, I worked in a door factory, I worked in a paint warehouse, a paint store. My dad happened to work for a paint company, hence the theme. And I was too lazy to go get a different job. And so I literally just always took whatever was before me. But I had this sense that I could do more, that I could be more, that there was something that I was meant to do. I didn't know what that was exactly. I had a love for filmmaking, to be sure, and I've had that love since I was a little kid, but I had no idea how that was going to play itself out. Now, the irony of my life is when I went to leave for college, I almost chickened out. In fact, I did chicken out, and the only reason that I ended up going to college was my mom forced me to.
Most of us have one or more favorite teams, collegiate and professional. Most of us have athletics we follow and cheer for. Some of us, even at my age, seek glory on the field or court. Maybe it's the immediacy of victory. You play and you win or lose. Maybe it's having fans watch and scream for you. For some of us, even though our athletic days are behind us, we try to have a dream live on through our children.
These are two of the most chaotic things that the adversary can do to us, or that we do to ourselves in our own minds, is to get ourselves doubting, to get ourselves discouraged, because you can't win when you doubt and you can't win when you're discouraged. What I found out, though, about self-doubt is that you don't overcome it, you build something bigger than it, which means you build your self-confidence, and the greater and greater your self-confidence get, it minimizes the impact self-doubt has on us. Now, why is that so important? It's important because you have to understand one thing about the doubts and the negative thoughts you have about yourself. As hard as this is to accept, these are not your thoughts. You weren't born doubting. You weren't born discouraged. You weren't born thinking negative things about yourself. Those were thoughts that were placed in you and given to you by an external source at some time in your life. It could even be our parents. Don't do that. Be quiet. Sit down. Be a good boy. Be a good girl. Maybe it was criticism you received as a little one.
And I was having this moment of crisis. There was only me and one other kid that was leaving the state from my high school. Everybody else went to a state school. Everybody stayed together. It was that familiarity and living essentially a small life. And it sounded really enticing at the prospect that I was about to move away. And so I said to my mom, you know what, look, let's just forget all this. Let's call it off. It's going to be really expensive. I'll just stay here. And my mom was like, over my dead body. And she pushed so hard to get me out. But then every day since then, my mom has tried to get me back. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, you're the reason I left. I never would have left if it wasn't for you. So I literally don't understand. And in that moment, my mom gave me the greatest gift anyone could have ever given me, because my mom supported me. She was my biggest cheerleader. But when I asked her why she pushed me so hard to leave for college, her answer, totally without malice, was, I always assumed you were going to fail.
He identified your dreams, identified your passions. They're interrelated but distinct. A dream is something you want to accomplish. It's bigger than life. It requires talent, hard work, dedication. It also requires passion. Passion is what gets you out of the bed earlier than most to prepare for a marathon. write a book like this, go to night school for another degree, and any host of other tasks that require drive, grit, and heart.
Of course it's your fault. It's your report too. It's your responsibility to see that everyone you delegated work to does their part. Now, you can't control what others around you do, but it's in your own best self-interest that you stay on top of things, especially if it's going to affect your future. You think your boss cares that John didn't do his part? You think he sees John as the bad guy? Of course not. All he sees is that the report isn't done. Bottom line. Be responsible for the things that affect you. You can make sure you're more responsible by checking in with those people who are working with you, the people who make up your team. You can be more responsible by saying, "Hey, John, how are you doing with your part? Do you need some help? Can we put somebody else in here to help you finish?" Now, if John consistently doesn't handle his part, you've got to replace John. If he isn't doing his share, you've got to find somebody that will. Or what? It will negatively affect you. You can't wake up in the morning that the project is due hoping and wishing that John has done his part. No, you've got to be responsible because it's going to affect your career too. Now, my approach to my better future very early on in my career was to just go through the day with my fingers crossed. And I used to say something like, "I sure hope things will change for the better." Then here's what I found out. They're not going to change. Somebody says, "Well then, how will my life ever change?" Answer, when you change. When you change, when you get better, it'll get better. If you change, it'll all change. Don't put it on someone else. Hope that someone else will change it for you. Take responsibility for yourself. Take personal responsibility. You can't change the circumstances or the seasons or the wind, but you can change your reading habits. You can change whether or not you go for the skills, burn the midnight oil, turn yourself around, multiply your value by 2, 3, 5, 10. That you've got charge of. That you have control of. You don't have control of the constellations, but you've got control over whether or not you go to night school, take adult classes, learn some new skills. You have control over that. And if you don't, that's your fault. You've got to take personal responsibility. You've got to be self-reliant. Nobody else can change your life, alter your ambitions, pave a golden road for you. But you can. It's up to you. Be responsible for yourself. Learn to reap the harvest without complaint. This is a sign of growing maturity. And here's where it comes from, taking full responsibility. Take full responsibility for everything you do. Be responsible to yourself. It's your crop. Whatever your paycheck is, take full responsibility. You say, "Well, it's my employer." No, it's not your employer. You can become twice as valuable, 3 times as valuable. Burn the midnight oil, learn some more skills, bring more value to the marketplace. I'm telling you, whatever your harvest is, take it without complaint. Whenever you prepare correctly, taking all of the steps you're supposed to take, doing everything in your power to stay on track, whenever your preparations lead to success, achieving your goals, you reinforce the disciplines that got you there. Success leads to reinforcement of the proper disciplines. If what you're doing is working, keep doing it. If what you're doing isn't working, change it. How can you isolate what's working for you and what isn't? How can you make sure that you are reinforcing your positive disciplines? Well, if it isn't apparent, easy to see right away. If what you're doing is happening in such small increments that you're not sure if you're on track, then you need to be writing it down. You need to keep a journal anyway. But if you really aren't sure that what you're doing is making measurable progress, you need to keep a written record. You need to write down everything that may be relevant in your day. What you did, who you saw, what you felt, how it may or may not affect you now and in the future.
The constant commitment to putting something in the world of value, as long as you can stay focused on delivering your art and delivering yourself and delivering your energy and delivering your ideas for the world to be better.
The secret to success is doing a lot of little things consistently over a long period of time. The moment of every single day has a massive impact on where you ultimately end up.
The way to improve lives is to continually improve yourself. Good people have to get out of the bed every day and try to empty the ocean with a soup spoon, as the mentality of how you wake up every day to try to do good in the world. You really got to focus with all of your fiber and all of your heart and all of your creativity.
Dreams without goals are just dreams, and they ultimately fuel disappointment. Goals on the road to achievement cannot be achieved without discipline and consistency.
What if I told you this was the last Monday morning of your life? What if I told you you died this week? Would you complain about your crap job or that test you don't want to take? I doubt it. You would go much higher level thinking. Well, that's really what it takes. It takes understanding that if you're not pumped right now, if you're begrudging what you're about to do, if you're not looking forward to it, look, I respect practicality. You gotta go through school because your parents want to. You gotta pay your rent. You got student loans. I get it. But please recognize the world we're living in.
When you feel like your professor or your teacher has lost their mind. When you feel like your energy is all gone and it's impossible to finish every assignment on time. When you feel like you're mentally broken and your motivation to achieve is hard to find. When you feel like the clouds in your life are so dark it would be impossible to ever see the sun shine again. When you feel. Those are three of the most powerful words that could ever be put together. When you feel. Because the feel means you're still with us. Because the feel means you're still breathing. Because the feel means you still have an opportunity to be achieving. Because the feel means that you still have the power to stop the pain. Stop the bleeding. Stop the hurting. Stop the grieving. I said, when you feel. Because the feel means you're still with us. Because the feel means you're still breathing. Because the feel means you still have an opportunity to be achieving. Because the feel means that you still have the power to stop the pain. Still have the power to stop the bleeding. Still have the power to stop the hurting. Still have the power to stop the grieving. So whenever you feel like your professor or teacher has lost their mind, because they're overwhelming you with a workload that seemingly will take up all of your time, I need you to pause and recall the reason why you made the choice to invest your time. And never lose sight of the fact that you were destined to shine. Never lose sight of the fact that you were made for this grind. Never lose sight of the fact that no hole is too deep for you to climb up out of. And above all else, your why will never ever allow you to withdraw. Your why will never ever allow you to pull the plug. Your why will never ever allow you to throw in the towel. See, it's your why that will push you to dig deeper and to go that extra mile. See, not only do you owe yourself, but you told your mama you were finished. You told your daddy you were finished. You told your brother you were finished. You told your sister you were finished. So therefore, it's up to you to never diminish the value of your word. And a wise man once gave me a wise word, and now I'm passing these wise words on to you. You are in total control of your situation. So when you feel like you're facing a breaking point, this is the point when you go to your professor. This is the point when you go to your academic advisor. And not the time to despise her and not the time to despise him. Simply say, I am in this until I walk across the stage with my diploma. I am in this until I smell the sweet aroma of success. And right now, I'm feeling overwhelmed because I am on academic overload. Do you have any suggestions that will help me power through this semester? Because my only option is to figure this out. And whatever it takes, I can, I will, and I must do. See, I understand that drastic times call for drastic measures. And the measure of a person's will is determined by what they are willing to do to ensure triumph over tragedy. The measure of a person's will is determined by what they are willing to do to ensure success over failure. The measure of a person's will is determined by what they are willing to do to ensure winning over losing. And see, right now, I'm choosing to fight for my academic future, and that's why I came to your office. I promise. When they see that your passion is pushing you with a purpose, they will give you every ounce of their being to assure you are successful because they know you're worth it. I just need you to never forget that you're worth it. Success is your baby. You just gotta birth it and then kick back and enjoy the fruits of your labor. But in the meantime, I need you to pull up your sleeves. I need you to tighten up your boxing gloves because you're right in the middle of a heavyweight boxing match. And life is trying to take your title, and your survival in this academic arena is at stake.
Who is the person, or what is the person, but more importantly, who could the person be, or what should they be? And that's a very strange thing about people, right? I mean, if you have a cat, you don't really sit around thinking, what could this cat be? Because it's a cat, and you know, if it has offspring, they're going to be cats, and in 1,000 years, they're still going to be just cats. But people, well, we're strange in ways that are virtually incomprehensible, and we're not only what we are, but we're also what we could be. And in many cases, especially for people of your age, you're way more what you could be than what you are. And so focusing on what you could be is an extremely important thing to do. And in fact, there's plenty of research, and some of it's associated with the writing exercises that I told you about earlier, that if you make efforts to define who you could be, and you know, in a way that you find interesting, because you might as well shape yourself into something that you want to be, that increases the efficiency with which you work substantially, and also makes you a better person by reasonable measures of better, which sort of means happier and healthier and, you know, more acceptable, or at least less repulsive to other people. There are two things that you have to take into account when you're thinking about personality, and one of those is how personality stays the same across time, and that's really what gives you your identity and what allows you to identify other people, and then also how personality changes. If you're happy, you're talkative. That might not be surprising, but the fact that those two things are tightly connected was one of the things that was discovered by the factor analytic processes that led to the development of the Big Five. In the Big Five, there are roughly 5 traits, as the name might indicate. Extroversion, which is a positive emotion trait. Neuroticism, which is a negative emotion trait. Agreeableness, which is warmth and empathy, compassion. The other side of that is kind of a harsh coldness, I guess. Openness, which is both intelligence and creativity. And conscientiousness, which is industriousness and orderliness. Now, there are virtues, so to speak, and faults associated with all of those dimensions. So you can be too extroverted, which makes you rather impulsive, and if you're very extroverted, it's more difficult to get good grades in university because you're always out having fun with your friends and partying. And that might be good in that it'll help you develop a fairly extensive social network, which is a useful thing if you're associated with people who are useful for social networking purposes. But it can really interfere with your ability to sit by yourself and study. If you're conscientious, that's a good predictor of academic success, because conscientious people do what they say they're going to do, and they seem to suffer shame and self-disgust and self-contempt and guilt and so on if they don't. And so the point of all this is that there are 5 traits, and they have positive and negative aspects, especially at the extremes. And these programs are set up, first of all, so that you'll see a series of adjectives that are universal descriptors. In one half of the exercise, a list that represents your virtues, and then in the other half of the exercise, a list that represents your faults.
I want to talk to you today because I hope that of all the talks that happen here, you forget about me, but that this changes your life. And I want to remind you of something as I begin today, that you were born to do something great with your life. That you're extraordinary, listen to me, that you're enough, that you're special, that you're favored, that you're chosen, regardless of where you come from, regardless of what you've been carrying with you. Some of you come in here today, and you know what? You've even thought of harming yourselves. Maybe you're even proud of the fact you haven't killed yourself. But every day, some of us are killing ourselves with the shame we carry from something we've done, some humiliation, some fear. We put this gun to our head every day that tells us we're not enough. We're not strong enough, pretty enough, smart enough, favored enough, that we're doomed. And we carry these guns in our head every day that shame us, that take our confidence from us, that steal our joy. It's like a knife. You don't have to kill yourself because you do it every day. You do it over and over and over again, and there's a better way forward. You can put those things down in your life. You could decide today that you were born to do something great. You could set aside this weapon that you keep using against yourself to hold you back from your joy, from your passion, from your achievement, from all the goodies in life. You could decide today, just intentionally, to set this weapon down, whatever it is. Something from your childhood, a divorce, a business failure, something you're just not proud of that you've done. Set it down. Stop using it as a weapon against yourself and realize that happened for you and not to you. I'll prove it to you. I'm a big believer in fake it till you make it. I don't want you seeing, people say, well, social media is so full of like these fake lives. People have always lived fake lives. I was living a fake life way before social media came along. In fact, when I became an entrepreneur, I wanted to be somebody so bad. I wanted to be rich so bad. I thought, if I don't look successful, no one's going to listen to me. Who's going to listen to a young kid in business about how to save your money when I didn't have any? That was my own limiting belief. What's yours? You have this kind of convoluted limiting belief about why you can't do something right now that's your own BS story you keep telling yourself. How about you just drop that story? How about you just decide it's a lie, even if it is true? I'm not going to just teach you not to tap into your pain. I'm going to teach you how to do it. Okay, I teach people how to change things technically, but I believe in this concept of living blissfully dissatisfied, which means there's a way. Most achievers have it backwards. They think, hey, if I enjoy my success, I'm going to lose all my drive, right? And then other people that aren't successful yet, haven't reached what they want, or they delay their bliss until a destination in the future. Once I get this relationship, once I make that money, once I get that car, once I have that home, then I'll let myself feel bliss. And so I teach you that the concept is you can live blissfully and still be dissatisfied. Your pathway to changing how you feel about yourself, of getting to the next level, is always giving. I have this thing I kind of run my life through that kind of is my governor on my life of when I'm trying to give and when I'm trying to make a difference for people. And I just have this hallucination. I am a Christian, and so I believe that someday when I die, there's an accounting. I'm actually one of these very interesting people that I believe in the quantum field and energy because I know it exists, and I believe my Lord and Savior created it. You have whatever your belief is wonderful. I don't preach. I just want you to know, I know there's an energy field. I know there's a God. I just want you to know that. So you believe your beliefs. I respect them. I admire them. I have people from every belief center in the world on my program. But I just want to say to you, this is my prism I live my life through. It governs my decision making, and I make mistakes all the time. One of the cool things about being a Christian is I'm saved by the grace of God because I know I'm going to sin. That's one of the cool things about my particular faith. But the point that I want to make, because I sin all the time, I make mistakes all the time. I've already used profanity, I think, 4 times in this talk. So I know for sure I've messed some mistakes. But let me tell you how I govern my life. I believe at the end of my life there's an accounting. And I'm going to sit in front of my Lord, and I want him to say, well done, good and faithful.
Well, first of all, a lot of companies don't foster leadership. They don't have a leadership environment. They'll come and say, I love your leadership principles, but I'm not a leader because I don't have the position. In fact, I wrote a book several years ago called The 360-Degree Leader. And I wrote it for that person that, kind of is in the middle, how to influence or lead people above you, beside you, and, kind of around you, that 360 idea, helping them understand that the key to leading people, even if you're not in a leadership environment, is, again, influence. So the question now comes down, then how do I influence people? And if I do influence people, how do I increase that influence? And my answer is very simple. We increase the influence with people when we intentionally add value to them on a consistent basis. Because if you think about people in your life that have a high influence on your life. They've really added a lot of value to you. And so what I share, I do a little simple formula that kind of works, and that is every day, consistency compounds. So you put consistency with intentionality, and you've got a powerful combination. So every day, I basically do 5 things. Every day, first of all, I value people. It begins there. Because if I don't truly value people, I won't add value to them. You don't add value to people that you don't value. You don't add value to anything you don't value. So every day I value people. That's where it starts. But then every day I think of ways to add value to people. So, I'll look at my calendar and I look at my agenda today and I realize I was going to be with you. And I think, well, okay, how can I add value to you? What can I do for impact theory that'll, just help? Because again, if you're constantly adding value to people, you're going to be of great value to people. Then I look for ways to add value to people when I'm in the setting I'm looking for, okay, what can I do? What can I say? What we see is what we look for. And so if I'm looking to add value, guess what? I'll see ways to add value to it. Somebody else might be beside you, not add value at all to you. But I look for ways. And then number 4, I do things that add value to people. And then number 5, I encourage others to add value to people. And I've just lived that simple formula. I do that every day of my life. It's very simple. And I try to help other people do that, understanding that if they do that, wherever they are, leadership culture, not a leadership culture, doesn't really matter. They'll begin to influence and begin to lead people, and they'll begin to make a difference in people's lives. And I think that's essential. But I think you have to be intentional, and I think you have to be consistent. Consistency compounds. I'm 72, and I've been doing leadership for 50 years. And so when people say, well, how'd you become a leadership guru and all these things that you got? I tell them it's just consistency.